What really led to the establishment of the Preservation Resource Center was a result of the declining population in the city. Federal programs and policies were bringing about the destruction of American cities, with highway construction, with urban renewal, subsidizing suburban growth. People couldn't get loans in the cities to buy and renovate a house. People were alarmed.
There was a time when I got out of school where a lot of people my age, we left the city, went out to the suburbs and relocated. So it's great to see my hometown really come back strong.
What the PRC has been most effective in doing is promoting living in our older neighborhoods and helping people actually undertake a renovation.
The Preservation Resource Center is instrumental in education, okay, whether it's educating people in our industry, whether it's realtors, contractors, but also first-time home buyers. So they, throughout the year, have many programs set up for first-time home buyers.
There's something to be said about old houses and how New Orleans is. It gives people, the younger generations coming behind, a sense of what they may see in a history book.
When I was purchasing my property 15 years ago, my realtor told me to go to the PRC. So I marched myself down there, and the PRC helped me sort through sort of what type of architecture that I may be interested in, what neighborhoods I'd actually find that architecture, and then he had a list of several general contractors that I could interview if I actually found a home that needed to be restored.
One of the things that's the most unique about New Orleans architecture is the sheer volume of it. In many cities that have historic areas, they're quite contained. In the city of New Orleans, we have neighborhood upon neighborhood filled with historic architecture.
When you create a historic district, it brings stability to your neighborhood. It means that the houses next to you are going to be done correctly.
A lot of these first-time home buyers, it's home ownership. That's one of the American dreams, is to have my home one day. And they don't realize that they can do this. They may drive past that house and say, this is a perfect location, perfect neighborhood, but I can't afford it. But you know what, there's this house around the corner that's an eyesore that I can get at a lower price because it is an eyesore, and they create their dream through the Preservation Resource Center.
Preservation is not just an aesthetic treat. I think it touches all people in the city to have a built environment that is safe and happens to be beautiful.
These houses have been preserved by our neighbors for years, not just people who came here recently and tried to restore them. I would say that the neighbors on Brainerd or Barone, Central City, they have done a lot in keeping these houses for people like us to enjoy.
The PRC helped validate the notion that you can renovate and restore without replicating what was done years ago. And they were actually incredibly supportive of my idea of restore the front but do something new and contemporary in the back. Preservation doesn't have to follow the same path for everybody.
There is contemporary architecture that when you look at it, you can tell that is a new building, but you can admire it because it took its clues from what was there before.
The real estate market in New Orleans is very fierce right now. Part of that is consumer confidence is very high in the city as a whole. We've had a lot of good national press, which has influenced a lot of people to actually purchase because the mindset has changed.
Houses are listing and selling quickly, and we are also seeing an appreciation in value because people want to live here.
Preservation really is good for business. It attracts investors. In New Orleans, if you drive around, especially downtown, every building you see that looks good, probably use the rehab tax credit.
With the historic tax credits in place, I think that was really the game changer for private sector developers to consider how to make money using these credits. And obviously, I think it's pretty well known, the PRC was very integral in getting those in place and really the communication to our elected officials as to why it's important.
When I see a renovation job well done, I see skilled workers. You can build developer-type suburbs without skilled workers. I love seeing the old-time craftsmen, and I want their businesses to continue, and I don't want their crafts to die out. Things like plastering or wrought iron work. And New Orleans is lucky to have those sorts of craftsmen around. They simply do not exist in some other places.
Preservation is very important, and an active preservation movement is essential. And with people looking for property, with the need for housing stock, it's necessary to preserve most of these properties. It's a process of working with a very talented cast of people to create something fantastic.
The mom and pop businesses, I think, definitely benefit from the initiatives of the Preservation Resource Center.
I've been making dresses for 15 years. I love this neighborhood so much. You can just walk around, get everything you want. I do like to have my own business, and I love to have my dress shop.
We didn't have much money at the time. We were starting off still kind of new business owners and not a lot of resources, so I didn't really have much expectation that we would be able to actually get the property. I found a contractor that had a lot of experience with historic buildings and loves historic buildings. And I brought him through the property, and we looked at the challenges. We knew it had a lot of structural problems, but he looked at me square in the eye and said, "We can do this." The Preservation Resource Center was there for us throughout the renovation. If I had any questions about how to deal with certain issues, what would be appropriate or not appropriate for the building, I could call them. I think it's worked out really well.
The building itself is very beautiful too. I think it matches with my business. I love everything about it.
The young people who came here to work after Katrina decided to stay. When they relocated here, they didn't want to stay in the suburbs. They want to live in the city where they work and get the feel of it. So if we have a blighted neighborhood, that first house might be the toughest one to get done. But once one house comes back, you're going to see a resurgence of people that see the beauty of that one house, and then the next one happens, and the next one, and so forth. So that brings that neighborhood back into commerce. It brings the houses back into commerce.
In all honesty, I'm staying because of the sense of community here. It's very, very nice, and on a day-to-day basis, it's an easy thing to live with. And even in a neighborhood like Central City that many people in this city are petrified of, the vast majority of people are very good neighbors and good people. I've never really felt so welcome professionally as I do here.
This neighborhood it has a sense of community that, I grew up with. You know your neighbors, and it's just a diverse set of people. It's one of the most diverse streets as a neighborhood that I've ever lived in.
And I think through their work of showing that, these little old houses are quite beautiful. They're not afraid of which neighborhood they're doing it in.
It's more about bringing back a instill of pride. When I built the fence on the corner on Brainerd and Phillip, there was really neighbors like, I think I should put a fence up all of a sudden. And some of them did. Some were like, I think I'm gonna spruce up and do a little paint. And I see you paint your house and how good it came out. We're gonna start going down the same path. So I think it was more of a motivational factor, inspiring.
Once people get to know you, and I think people in New Orleans take the time to get to know you, you're not a stranger anymore. And I have some good friends that I'd met when I first moved here, and they're like, you're just a person from New Orleans who wasn't born here, but you're from New Orleans, and New Orleans is in your soul. And so I think that has been my experience.
It really was the people of this city working as neighborhoods that brought back the city.
When you see a lot of these buildings and houses, on my very street, it's kind of daunting to see the condition they're in. I think that's important for there to be at least one organization who's doing some pretty difficult work, sending a message through actions that historic preservation can be done.
We have learned that there are solutions. So whenever you see a place where there are vacant and blighted properties, closed down businesses, it's by choice, because now we know how to reverse it.
They are passionate about bringing this city back and preserving the history.
We can't just be satisfied with the status quo. We've got to keep our neighborhoods growing and getting better and better.
The payback that you get of living in a historic home where people have lived for centuries is a wonderful feeling. And the PRC really actually promotes that. And they've been doing it for over 40 years, and so I see them continuing into our future.